Hello my friends, this is Logan Jacob. Today we are here from my humble little home studio in Conway, Arkansas, and I have a video for you today about AUM. This is another AUM basics video. Today we're going to talk about connecting up hardware, whether it's a MIDI keyboard or microphones or even a Eurorack modular system or your guitar, whatever you might want to hook up to AUM, and how to set it up so that you can control everything via MIDI and CC, and also how to set up the effects and the sound that you want and mix all of that down to a mix bus to be able to record onto a track. I'm going to take you through the equipment that I have, what I use to set all of this up, and I'm going to show you how to get started and how to set up a template so that you don't have to redo everything every time you open up AUM. Before I do all that though, I do want to thank you all so much for helping me hit over 1,000 subscribers over the last couple of weeks. We crossed about 1,100 subscribers this weekend, and I am so thankful for all of you guys for doing that. If you have not already subscribed to the channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to get notifications letting you know when I post a new video or when I go live for a live stream, please hit the bell icon as well and you'll receive all of those. And of course, the best thing you can do for this video is to hit like, to comment something down below, and of course to share it on Facebook or any other social platforms that you're using. Thank you again for supporting the content. I really appreciate it. As always, if you have any questions about AUM specifically or about any other iOS apps that you've seen me use or you think I might use, please feel free to comment those below. And if there's any videos that you'd like to see in the future, you can go ahead and comment down below as well. And I'll be sure to get to those as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. Now let's dive into some content. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is all of the stuff that I have hooked up here, all of the hardware that I kind of keep hooked up on a regular basis, so you can see how I've got everything connected and what I'm using to get to where. I've seen a lot of questions on the Facebook groups asking about how do I connect my microphone or my guitar or whatever into AUM and make it work. So the first thing we have to look at is the hardware itself. So the most important thing we need is power. Of course, we've got to be able to power all of these handy devices and power the iPad so that it doesn't die in the middle of recording or our live session or whatever we're doing. So this is an Orico multi-charger here. It has 5 different USB charging ports, including 2 supercharger ports and 3 regular ports that are just a slightly less voltage. So the reason I use this one is because it does put out enough power to efficiently charge my iPhone or my iPad, whatever I happen to be using at the time. And it can also charge any of my keyboards or my other devices that I might be using. So I have that to start with, and then connected into my power, I have this little Anchor or Anchor, however you're supposed to say it, USB hub. This is a powered USB hub. As you can see, I've got this cord here is running into my power brick so that it can power anything that's going to need to have the power attached to it. So into this, I have a USB to 5-pin DIN MIDI that connects over to my Eurorack. I have a module that takes MIDI and converts it to CV so that I can use my iPad to talk to my Eurorack system. So that's what that is. This yellow cord here is connected to my Novation Launch Key 49, which is the keyboard that I use, and I'll show it off in a second. And then here I have my USB going to a Tascam 4x4 that I have up here. And I'll talk about that again here in just a second. So that's my hub. I do have one other spot that I could plug something else. Sometimes I like to have my circuit mono station plugged in so that I can control it via MIDI and have that run in if I want to use that for kind of a thick bass line or something along those lines. And then attached to the other end of the USB hub, I have an Insignia USB-C to USB VGA and another USB-C port adapter, dongle, whatever you want to call it here. And the reason I like this one, I don't really ever use the VGA slot on it anymore, but what I like is having this extra USB-C for power. So I can plug a USB-C cord in and plug it into the power brick, and then when I plug this in, it is sending power through so that it charges my iPad while I'm working, while I have everything else connected to it. This is the Insignia brand that you can find at Best Buy. There are thousands of other versions of this that you can find on eBay. You know, I tend to just kind of go with the cheaper stuff, and I haven't had any problems with it. Nothing's caught on fire for me yet. I guess I'm lucky in that regard. So this, once I'm kind of ready to go, just plugs in right here. And AUM, the iPad automatically grabs it. It knows what it's supposed to be doing. It knows what I'm connecting to. And as soon as I power everything up, it's going to be good to go. So before I do that and kind of dive into that side of it, I want to show off the other hardware here a little bit. The LaunchKey 49 has become my favorite keyboard for standard AUM production. Most of the generative music that I do, or the improvisations that I do, I use this LaunchKey because of the functionality. It has so much stuff. It has a 49 key keyboard. They're velocity sensitive. They're not weighted or anything like that. It feels like a cheap keyboard like you would find on any other synth or anything like that. But it has some other stuff that I like in it. It has these buttons here, which of course are designed, you can't see those, let me lift this up here, there we go. It has these buttons here, which are designed to go with Ableton, but you can program those to work with AUM, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So I have a play, a stop, and a record button if I need to use those. It has 16 pads, velocity sensitive pads that I can use as either drum pads or to trigger different events happening, different CCs or whatever I need to. I can map those however I want to. It has 8 knobs that I can do the same thing with. I can program those as CC for whatever I happen to be wanting to use. I can control a filter. I can control the speed of an LFO if I want, or whatever I'm using. I can do it that way. And then it has 9 faders as well. And for my standard template, I use 8 channels to start with, and I have them pre-programmed in to these faders so that I can control, of course, the volume of each fader. And then I have my channel 9, which is my master channel, controlling my mix bus, so that if I need to adjust volume there, if I want to do a master fade out, I can. Each of these faders also has a button attached to it, which I use to control the mute on the channel. So I can bring a channel in or out instantly with that instead of having to fade it up or fade it down. And again, I set all that up in my template so that I'm not having to set that up every time I go into the program. And I can quickly change MIDI channel if I need to using these, the track buttons here. That is pretty handy so that I can have a certain instrument set to a certain channel, and I can swap quickly between those if I need to. I have my octave transpositions if I need to, and then of course I have a pitch bend and a modulation wheel as well. Which comes in handy, and you can again map that mod wheel to whatever CC you want to be able to control whatever you want in any of the effects or any of the synthesizers, soft synths, or whatever that you're using in AUM. It will control all of them, which is pretty handy, I think. My Tascam 4x4, what I love about this is that it gives me 4 channels of inputs, both XLR and 1/4 inch inputs. As you can see what I have plugged in right now, I have this blue cord is run into my guitar setup. I have a pedal board with a Vox, one of the Vox MV50s, and this is the AC model of that. It has a really great sounding line out. It uses a nanotube technology to sound like a real tube guitar amp running straight out of that line amp. Any of the guitar stuff you've heard on my channel, that's what I'm using. And then I swap out my pedal board, of course, just like any other guitarist. This cord in channel 3 is run into my Eurorack system. I have it running out of the mixer of my Eurorack into the Tascam, which I can then open up a channel in AUM, and I can either just take the dry signal or I can add any additional digital effects that I might want to. And then this yellow cable I have connected to my circuit mono station so that I can use that for bass lines or whatever else I might want to use that for. And I usually have a microphone plugged into channel 1. For now, I've got my mic plugged directly into the camera just to keep the video and audio in sync for this. This is a USB 2. It's kind of an older technology. It is an older piece of hardware, but it works great for me. I love it. It has the four 1/4-inch outputs. I have 2 of those into my monitors, which when I'm just playing around and mixing, I usually have those hooked up and on live so that I can hear it in the room. It does have 2 headphone outputs, which is nice. If I have a buddy jamming with me, we can both do that. It does have this monitor balance, but I found that only works if I don't have the USB plugged in. So that makes things a little bit weird. It doesn't work quite right with the iPad, but it does have phantom power for all of the inputs that I need them for. And it also has, you can switch inputs 1 from mic line to an instrument, inputs 1 and 2 there. So that makes life a little bit easier for me as well. So I am a big fan of the Tascam 4x4. I think for the price, it's a really great interface. I know there's some other newer ones out there. The iConnectivity stuff is really great. I also have a PreSonus Audio i1 that is designed to work with an iPad. And that's really nice if I need to just do something quick on the road. I don't need all that many outputs or inputs. I can just plug my guitar and my voice into it and get whatever I need. Or if I just need to run out of a mixer straight into the iPad, I use the PreSonus pretty regularly. But generally I keep the Tascam set up here in my little studio to make things work pretty well for me. I think that's all the hardware that I need to show you. So I'm going to keep this camera up and so that you can kind of see what I'm doing over here while I'm showing you what's going on inside of AUM. So give me just a sec to change that over and it will, I'll get started with that. Okay, so here we are in AUM and I want to show you how I connect all of that hardware. So the only thing that I've connected at the moment is my microphone to channel 1, and I'll show you how I did that as I connect my other stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about is connecting up hardware, making sure that you've got a signal going in and that everything is working properly. So I'm going to click this plus sign right here and hit audio, and that creates my new channel. And if you've watched my introduction video, you actually already know how to do that. So I'm going to hit the +1, and now I'm going to go to a hardware input since I'm adding hardware. And this shows the 4 channels of my Tascam 4x4. Now you also notice that I can do stereo channels with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 serving as left and right together. But I've just got mono signals going right now, so that's all I'm going to do. And I want channel 2, which has my circuit mono station attached to it. Now, you can hear my circuit mono station is going a little bit crazy. Filter some of that down. Let's see. We're going to tone that down just a little bit. That's better. So now I've got my circuit mono station running through there. And if I want to add reverb or something to it, it's just like if I had a synth track in there, a soft synth track in there, I could just go to the plus sign, go to my audio unit extensions or InterApp audio if they were in there. And if you follow my channel, you know I'm a big fan of the Bleece effects. So we'll just grab a little bit of Bleece reverb. And for bass, I like just the default setting. Just that big, warm, reverberated sound. Now I have a ton of decay on that circuit mono station bass there, so it sounds really good, I think. And I'll play that in just a minute. so you can hear a sequence going through it. So that's really all it takes to connect audio there. All I did for this one was clicked hardware input and chose USB 1 because that's what I've got my mic plugged into. It's really that simple. Now, I personally like to add the channels in the order that I have them on my Tascam and then add the soft synth stuff after that. So if I want to get my Eurorack in there, I've got it plugged into channel 2. So I'm going to go hardware input channel 2. And then if I grab this and hold it, I can drag it around. I'll just plop it right in there. And now I have my Eurorack set up running into it. So first thing I'm going to do is change my tempo. Let's go with 40. I like a nice slow tempo for my ambient music. So I'm going to leave my Eurorack pretty dry. I've got it running through Clouds, which is a Eurorack module. So it's got its own effect on it. But I want to control that with MIDI. So again, it works the same way as if I were controlling a software track. I would click on that, hit plus MIDI, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it over so that it's immediately to the right. That's just how I like to set it up. I like to have my audio channel on the left and the MIDI that's controlling that channel immediately to its right. So I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to go to audio unit extensions, and I'm just going to use particles because it just kind of generates and goes. Actually, I'm going to use collider so that it won't start until I start the thing. So we'll go C minor. I think that's what I've got my mono station set up in. And I like a little bit longer gate. Not that it's going to matter because I've got it going into rings. So it's just kind of plucking. And let's add a few hadrons. All right. If you're not familiar with Collider, with Rosetta Collider from the Rosetta Suite, it's such a fun kind of generative sequencer. It creates this grid, and as the balls, the hadrons, bounce off the walls, it plays a note, and you can also set it to where if they collide, it plays a note as well. So it's kind of a fun little way. It is more loopy than particles, so it will actually generate a loop in there, but you can start changing stuff out if you want that loop to change. So now I need to connect some MIDI a little bit so that I can run the MIDI into my Eurorack station. So to do that, I'm going to go up here, and that brings up my MIDI grid. So I want my collider to go to my USB MIDI, and that's that USB cable I showed you that converts from USB to 5-pin DIN, and you've even showed you the logo there. And I've got that plugged into a Erica Synths MIDI to CV module. For those of you that are interested in Eurorack, that's the one that I use, and I find that it works nicely. You can actually do 2 voices from it, and you can send so MIDI channel 1, the CV and gate out comes out of CV1 and gate 1, and MIDI channel 2 comes out of CV2 and gate 2. And it also has clock and a modulation that you can send out as well. And you can adjust glide and stuff like that. So it's pretty fun. Okay, so I've got that set up. And now if I start it, we should hear rings into Clouds start banging away. So what I've done here, because I'm dumb, is I set USB 2, which is my circuit mono station. Let's go to USB 3. There it is. So now you'll see every time a collision happens, turn the VCA down a little bit. So now we've got the lovely sounds of rings into Clouds coming into channel 3. And if I start the sequence, now I don't have my mono station clocked in, I just didn't patch that up. So it's going to be kind of going its own tempo. All right, so you get the idea there. So I've got a couple of pieces of hardware going there. And if I wanted to add in my guitar to it, I have my guitar plugged into channel 4, but I don't have my guitar sitting in my lap, so I'm not going to do that just yet. Okay, now, as you saw, I had to use my mouse in this case, or I would have to touch the screen to mute and to adjust the volumes there. Well, why am I doing that if I've got 8 faders and buttons in front of me? So I need to set up my launch key to be able to control all that stuff. So let me show you how to do that. If you go up into the corner to your MIDI routing, I'm going to grab the launch key MIDI and the launch key in control, which is all of these buttons and these buttons over here. And I'm just going to let those control the MIDI control. So anything that I want to control, to send CC in and control my different aspects, the different parameters in AUM, needs to go into that MIDI control. All right, in the AUM basics video, I showed you some LFOs and how you can send LFOs in the same way. All right, so, but I'm just going to run my keyboard into it right now. And just to kind of give you the most basic, if I bring up Ravenscroft 275, which is my favorite piano, and I can go ahead and connect that as well. All right, so now I've got that going, but I don't want that to control there. In fact, I'm going to just completely remove that channel. I want it to control my channel strips, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. There we go. To be able to set that, there's 2 different ways you can do it, okay? You can go up here and open up the menu and go to MIDI control, and there you can see all of your channels and all of the options that you have to control. Or if you want to control something on a specific channel, you can click on the channel name and hit the MIDI control button right there. So that's what I'm going to do. And I want to control the volume of this channel, which is what that fader controls. All right, so I'm going to hit volume, and it pulls up this little screen. Now, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. I'm just going to hit learn, and I'm going to move the fader. And as you can see, when I did that, when I ducked it down, it fades out my voice because I'm controlling that fader. And if I minimize that, you can see that when I control my fader, when I move my fader on my keyboard for channel 1, it affects that fader in AUM. Now I also want this button here, which you can probably barely see on the video, but there's a little button underneath that fader, and I want that to control the mute. That's the button I use the most with these, so that's what I'm going to do. So if I hit mute and then hit learn, now I can mute myself using that button. So apparently this button sends CC 51 through channel 1. So now hitting that button turns the mute on and off, as you can see there. Now I just do the same thing for channel 2. Volume, learn, move that fader, mute, learn, hit that button. And now I can control channel 2. Now I can do the same thing with channel 3. Volume, learn, do that, mute, learn, do that. Okay, so now the faders control the 3 things that I have. Okay, I can mute on the fly, whatever I need to do. Okay, and my music is largely improvisation based, so I like to have all of that stuff at my, in my fingertips so that I can adjust things. Sometimes I even, if I'm using Collider, I like to set up different aspects of Collider to be controlled by the knobs, and I'll show you how to do that. So on this MIDI channel, again, I click on it and I hit the control button there. And it shows me Rosetta Collider. So it shows me the stuff that I can change. Okay, so if I want to change the number of hadrons, for example, in there, I could do that. Hit learn and rotate that knob. Now, if I open up Collider, you see this number of hadrons, which is up here in the top right. It's changing. And what that would do is if I have 0 hadrons, I'm not going to get anything. If I just have 1, it's just going to be 1 note bouncing around. And as I add more, it'll add more complexity to the sound, so I can kind of give my piece an arc. I can start it with very few notes bouncing around there and add more and more and more so it gets more complex and bring it out as I want to. Okay? So that's just one example of how you might want to do that. You could set it to control the pitch so that you move up or down the scale. You can set it to control the velocity if you want to. You can set a button to bypass Collider. Let's do that just so you can see what that does. So learn, and I'm going to hit that button. So now if I push that, it actually exits the Collider. And that's something you can do, especially with particles, because particles keeps running after, as long as you can, it automatically by default auto runs, even if you don't have the playhead going. So if I want to just exit it real quick so that it, it'll let the notes decay out without muting the channel or something, I can use that button to do that. It stops sending the MIDI signals, but it lets the audio continue to go through there. Okay. So that's some of the basics for connecting this kind of hardware. One of the tricks that I like to do is that was pretty tedious. I don't like to have to spend 10 minutes going through, maybe not that long, that's probably exaggerating, but I don't like to have to go through every one of my channels and set that stuff, set those faders, set the mute buttons, if I'm going to pretty much do that every time. So what I've set up is an AUM, a template for when I have my Launch Key 49, if I'm sitting in my studio and I've got all my stuff connected and I want it to kind of run by default, I saved a template to be able to do that. Now, when I change projects, it's going to mute my voice in AUM, so I'll bring it back once I get in there, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to go and open up that template so you can see what my kind of basic template looks like whenever I get started. I've seen a lot of questions about workflow, and this is one of the things I like to do just to get going on a track so I can really get the music going and start improvising. Okay, so I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go to Files, and I'm going to locate my template track. Now, I could create a folder if I wanted to and have all the templates, the different kind of templates I want in there, whatever I want to do. But this LK49 template I know is my template for when I have my Launch Key 49 available. And as you can see, I saved it just this afternoon. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to open up my template, and then I'll add in my mic so I can start talking to you again. So here we go. Okay, and I am back. I've got everything added in. I have my mic on USB 1. Now, something you might have noticed when I went over there is that all of my sends at the bottom are now sending to mix bus A. All right, and that's just something I like to do. I like to have a mix bus over here that I can start recording. And usually whenever I record, I usually am recording the screen, but I also send it to a track, to a stereo track over here. So that I can take that wave file, that audio file, and run it into something like Ozone and master it if I need to. But then I can also just drag that video file in, and it's got the audio attached to it as well. If I know that I'm going to want to mix something further later on, then I'll just record each individual track. And sometimes I'll do both. Sometimes I'll set the individual tracks to record and this one to record, my main mix bus to record, and then I'll send all of that into Ozone and master it however I need to, whatever I need to do. I usually use Ozone for mastering because I have it and it's a great program. If I want to do everything on the iPad, then sometimes I'll master with Final Touch. I've talked about it before in my videos. I'm not crazy about Final Touch. I've been able to occasionally go ahead and drop it here into the effects chain, but it eats up a lot of DSP, and I've had a habit of maxing things out and causing problems if I do that. So you can drag it into Final Touch later and do the editing, but that's another video. Okay, now what I want to demonstrate with this is that I do have my faders all set up. So I've got my channel 9 on my keyboard, which is my master channel, set up for my mix bus A. So that's my master fader. So if I have a, everything running into that and I want to do one big long fade out at the end with all of my channels going, then I can just pull that out. And it makes everything go away. What I also did with this one, instead of setting this button to mute, I actually set it to arm this track for recording. So if I hit that, you'll see that now that track is armed to record. And if I go up here and hit record, it'll start recording from that channel. Okay, so that's just a quick and easy way to do that. And as you can see, channel 8 is fader number 8. Same with the mutes, channel 7. And all that stuff is automatically set up when I open up that template, that file, and I've got 8 channels that I can then start to play around with. Okay? By the way, something that's handy so that you're not having to constantly swipe back and forth like that. I've probably said this in one of my videos before, but if you click on your channel and bookmark it, you then have a bookmark set for that channel. So I can then bookmark channel 1, and I've got my bookmarks where I can flip back and forth there if I need to. Just a handy little tip from your friendly Uncle Logan there. Okay, now I mentioned that I like to use these controls on my launch key MIDI to set up to record and to play and to be able to stop. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. For that one, you will have to go up here to the menu and go to MIDI control. So if I go to start play and hit learn, I now have a hardware play button. And I don't know why I don't have that saved into my template. Maybe I should do that. And then I can toggle record. Oh, I have to hit learn first. Even the guy making the tutorial makes a mistake every once in a while. So now I've got that record button. If I want to do a rewind, I'll set that one to this button. That looks like a rewind. I could program one of my pads for a tap tempo if I wanted to. Whatever I need to do, I've got the button there to do that. Actually, I think I'm going to turn this one into stop and then use this one as my rewind. There we go. And I don't usually worry about tap tempo. I rarely have to change my tap tempo, and I'm not really sure what toggle play would do. Maybe somebody smarter than me will figure that out. Now, something that's kind of cool is that I could also set up a MIDI button to switch back to AUM. So if I had an inter-app audio open, I could hit a button and it'll fly back into AUM, which is kind of fun. For this add actions, you can set it to load a particular preset, a particular channel in there, which is kind of cool. If I want to be able to jump to another project pretty quickly, let's just do that. So this action is going to open up, if you're familiar with the Jimmy Eat World song from Clarity 12/23/95, I've been working on that, programming it in to be able to perform it with my wife as kind of a live loops thing. So I can set, let's say I want this button to automatically load that session. So now you're going to lose my mic when I jump over there, but all I'm going to do is hit this button and it's going to load that session. First thing I'm going to do is save this session. Now, let's see what happens when I hit the button. So that's definitely a pretty cool feature to have there. So I could quickly get there. By the way, the hissing you're hearing is coming from tape cassette. If I turn that off, it gets rid of it. I've got the noise set up pretty high on that. So just give you a little preview here. All right, I think that's enough of a preview of that one. Okay, let's jump back over to my templates. Okay, so we're back over in my template, and I think that's all I wanted to show you with hardware. So hopefully you found this tutorial informative. If you're new to AUM and you're trying to figure out how to connect all your stuff and make it work, hopefully you've been able to come across this video and it'll show you how to do stuff. So thank you for checking it out. I'm going to jump back to myself here to close things out, and I hope you have a great day. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you checking it out. Please remember to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon if you haven't already. Comment down below if there's any content that you'd like to see in the future. Also wanted to let you know that if you're a fan of my music, if you like some of the weird electronic stuff that you've heard in this video or on my channel, you can find that, of course, on YouTube here on this channel, but you can also find it on bandcamp.com under Logan Jacob. You can also find it on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, all of the other streaming services as well. If you search for Logan Jacob or search for any of the albums that I've put out so far, Still If Only for a Moment is one of the latest ones that I've put out, and you can find some of my content there. But if you're going to buy the music, I would encourage you to purchase it on Bandcamp. Bandcamp does a great job of supporting artists. If you have any of your local artists or artists that you follow that put their music out on Bandcamp, I always encourage people to buy music there because they do give most of that money back to the artists themselves. Spotify and iTunes are great for streaming and being able to have easy access to everything, but they really pay pennies to the artists. Bandcamp is always the best place to go. Thank you again for watching. I hope you'll check out some of my music on Bandcamp and iTunes, and of course, I hope that you check out some of these other AUM basic videos, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thanks, guys.